Okay. I love when impromptu things happen and you just have to go with the flow. And the name of today's show is What the Hell is Going On Out There? And that's the exact same question a lot of you are asking after what just happened with this podcast the first time around, trying to get this thing up and running. I'll explain that in a second. You know what? Let's just get the show started and let's jump into the 218th installment of the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 218th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So I was just flapping my gums, just talking my ass off. It wasn't quite like this, but have you ever been on a conversation on a phone call with someone and you are just talking your ass off? I mean, really just talking your jack off. And next thing you know, your phone lights up on the side of your face and you're like, the hell is going on? And you look and there's nobody there. Either your call dropped, the other person hung up by mistake, or your phone dropped the call because you were in an area where you didn't have good reception, but you didn't know. And you were just talking. That's sort of what kind of just happened to me. You know, I'm talking. I'm getting into my rhythm. I'm getting lathered up. And then all of a sudden, I look up and I see lights flicker and monitors go down. I'm like, okay, that's weird. And it was just like a quick little power outage. Don't really know what happened there. Has never happened before. But I was like, the hell is going on? And then I look down and I see my face frozen. I'm like this. And I'm just stuck that way. Then I'm reading your comments and you guys are some first-rate assholes. Okay, I just want you to know that. You know, somebody said something to the effect of, looks like Louie T's got Washington's, he's got Washington's tech support working on his show or something like that. They're you know, press conferences, the mics and the audio and the video are always jacked up. And then somebody else was talking about I got traded to the Rams, and somebody else was talking about something else, and it was just crazy. Anyway, I digress. What a crazy day today has been, and it's not even done yet. And we still got a whole nother 24 hours before the NFL trade deadline meets its conclusion. So, I mean, we could just be getting started here. So much has changed in just 24 hours. And we talk about the NFL and really sports in general are humbling. They're humbling, you know, experiences for fans, for players, coaches, everyone that's involved. But I don't know if there's a more humbling sport than football. I don't know if there is or not. I don't feel like there is, but who's to say? Anyway, let's get to the proceedings this evening. Let's try this again. See if we can have a little bit more success this time around. Let's get this thing kicked off with the gem dropping session. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, big news in the NFL space today as Von Miller, the Super Bowl 50 MVP, is traded to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for a 2022 second and a 2022 third round selection. The Broncos will pick up $9 million of the $9.7 million remaining on his contract, meaning the Rams are only on the hook for $700,000 essentially. So, in essence, the Rams are pushing all of their chips to the center of the table. This has been Sean McVay's mode of operation since getting to LA. To hell with the future. Let's win now. And his mantra has always been attack success. That's what he's done since he's gotten to LA, winning a division in year 1, going to the Super Bowl in year 2. And he really hasn't looked back since, looking to upgrade and get this team back to the Super Bowl and this time winning it. It has been his goal since getting there the first time. And they've done everything in their power to try to get there. And I think this offseason, they've kind of pushed that needle even further. And we didn't think it could go any further once they traded away all of their first-round draft picks for the next 27 years. But they said, nope, we can push this thing just a little bit further. And so looking at the 2022 NFL draft for the Rams, and this is not new territory for the Rams. They've had drafts where they've had 1 or 2 draft picks before. This is not new. But in 2022, they don't have a first-round pick. They surrendered that in the Jalen Ramsey trade. They don't have a 2022 second-round or third-round pick. Those will both be going to the Denver Broncos for this deal for Von Miller. They don't have a 2022 fourth-round pick. That belongs to the Houston Texans in the Brandon Cooks deal. And they don't have a 2022 sixth-round selection as they ship that off to New England for running back Sony Michel. So all they have left to their name in the upcoming draft is a 5th and a 7th. So the Rams really don't care about the future, okay? The out in the distance future, okay? Don't care too much about that. They are pushing all of their chips to the center of the table. It reminds me a lot of the 2012 Baltimore Ravens, who rolled the dice, pushed all their chips to the center of the table, had all of these aging veterans, but it paid off. They won a Super Bowl. But the year after, boy, was it a disaster or what? They lost a lot of guys. Their cap situation was all a mess. They had to re-sign Joe Flacco. They gave him a monster deal. They had to cut ties with everyone. And they weren't the same team, obviously. Haven't been back to the Super Bowl since. Don't even know if they made the playoffs that following year. It was such a mess. Bottom line is, all of this will be worth it if the Rams hoist the Lombardi. All of the moves that have been made, whether it's going out and acquiring Jalen Ramsey and giving up King's ransom for him, going out and trading for Brandon Cooks, realizing, I really don't need Brandon Cooks, and then trading him away. Giving up what it took to get rid of Jared Goff, but then to bring in Matthew Stafford. And now trading for Von Miller. The Rams, I think right now, don't have a first-round pick until 2025. They don't care. Doesn't matter to them one bit. In their mind, they're hunting after Lombardis, and if they get one, then all of this is justified. If they don't, this could set their franchise back a decade. Not 5 years, not 3 years. They don't have a first-round pick for the next 3 years. They have absolutely no draft capital essentially this year. They just traded away Kenny Young, who was a young, talented linebacker for them, not because he was playing bad. They didn't have any cap space. When you pay Aaron Donald and you're paying Matthew Stafford and you're paying Jalen Ramsey, you don't have money just sitting around. They've been paying all of their guys, Cooper Kupp and what's the receiver's name from Robert Woods? I always forget his name. They've paid all of these guys. Andrew Whitworth continues to come back year after year after year. So Kenny Young was a casualty. Young, talented football player. They didn't have space for him. Needed the cap space. We know now why they needed the cap space. They were trying to make a move like this one. Not going to cost them a ton, but still. They needed the flexibility. So essentially what I'm telling you is they're getting rid of young players. They're not drafting more young players. They've got some young, talented guys on their team, but they're going to have to continue to knock it out of the park in the third, in the fourth, in the fifth, in the sixth, in the seventh. And they've done a good job of doing that. They've found some hidden gems in the later rounds, in the mid to late rounds. They're going to have to continue to do that because they don't have any first or second round picks or third rounds in certain drafts either. But again, it's all going to be worth it if they hit on a Super Bowl. And that's what they're after. That's what Sean McVay, he cares nothing about what will happen to this team 5, 6, 7 years down the road. He's got tunnel vision. He got a taste of what it was like to be in a Super Bowl back in 2018. And he can't shake that feeling now. He's chasing a ghost. Maybe he'll catch it. Maybe he won't. But it's not for a lack of trying. That's for damn sure. No one's tried harder off the field in terms of the talent that they've been able to acquire to win a Super Bowl than the Rams. They're the anti-Green Bay Packers, essentially. It's amazing. And now this defense features Aaron Donald. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. It also features Von Miller and, of course, Jalen Ramsey. It's almost to the point now where if they don't win a Super Bowl, you're somewhat disappointed and you say, hey, what are you guys doing over there anyway? Now, these guys have to stay healthy. Aaron Donald got hurt in the playoffs last year. Von Miller is actually nursing an injury to his ankle as we speak, did not play in the game on Sunday versus Washington. His hope is to play on Sunday night, and coincidentally enough, the Rams will be playing against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday Night Football, and the Titans have some big news today. And we'll get to that here in a second. And Von Miller hopes to play in that football game. But if you're Dallas, if you're Green Bay, if you're Arizona, if you're one of these teams, Tampa Bay, and you're looking around at the landscape in the NFC, and you can't help but say, oh, shit. The Rams just one-upped everybody. They're not effing around. Now, if you believe in what you have, good for you. I thought Arizona made a really shrewd move by going out and getting Zach Ertz. Thought that was a really good move. But this kind of feels like the arms race. What are you going to do to try to keep up with the Joneses? The Buccaneers, I don't think they're in a position to really be able to do anything. And they're like, look, we got all the weapons we need. We just need to be healthy. That's their biggest thing. No AB, no Gronkowski. That's what's hurting them right now. Guys not being able to play. Their secondary is banged up. But if they get healthy, if they've got all of their weapons, they're going to be right there in the mix, no matter who the Rams acquire. But this is a massive move. If Von Miller is just a sliver of what he once was, and if Von can just go back to what he was the first 3 games of the season, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey. Good luck. Good luck. You're going to need it. That defense is ridiculous. And we know McVay believes in Matthew Stafford. We know he believes in Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and what they have at the skill positions. They're pushing all their chips to the center of the table. They're throwing caution to the wind. And yeah, they may be giving up on future assets, future draft picks, young, cheap players on affordable contracts. They're giving all that up. All in the pursuit, in the name of winning a Super Bowl. And you know what? I can't be mad at that. I'm not glad at it, but I ain't mad at it either. So it's amazing just looking at what the Rams have constructed over the last 3 years. It's damn near cheating. This feels like a Madden team that they've put together. Now they've got to go out and execute. They've got to go out and win. This feels like the Nets last year, the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA last year. Like, you don't win a title with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and James Harden, you got issues. Nobody wants to hear any excuses. Well, they got hurt. And that's the only thing I think can stand in the way of the Rams destroying everyone defensively, is if they can't stay healthy. If they get hurt, then they're not themselves, obviously. If they're healthy, you're going to have a tough time blocking Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Leonard Floyd all at the same time. Can't double team all of them. Wow. That is amazing. And now you look at it from the Broncos' perspective and what this says about them. I think it's a great move on the part of the Broncos, because what were you going to get when Von Miller left at the end of the year? A compensatory pick in the third round? Yeah, good luck with that. Like, this team, understand, you got everything you could get out of Von Miller. You extracted everything you could out of your number one overall pick back in the 08 draft, I think it was. 08, I believe it was. 08, 09, 2011. I think I'm predating him a little bit further back than I should. I think he was like the 2011 draft, if I'm not mistaken. Let's find out when Von Miller was drafted. I'm curious now. I think it was 2000. No, it couldn't have been 2011 because they won the Super Bowl in 20. No, it was 11. I'm going with 11. 2011. Let's see. Von Miller. See exactly when he was drafted. Von Miller was drafted in the 2011 draft. Got it. I was spot on. So they've gotten everything they could get out of Von Miller. They got a player that was a game changer, a havoc wreaker. I think he was the number 2 overall pick. I think I might have said number 1 overall. He was the number 2 pick, if I'm not mistaken. I think a quarterback might have went in ahead of him in that 11 draft. Cam Newton, right? I mean, isn't that one of the historic drafts, that 2011 draft, that first round at least? I don't think the entire draft, but that first round was ridiculous. I think that was the Cam Newton. Now, they had some duds like, Christian Ponder and Jake Locker. All those guys, I think, were in that same draft. But it was Newton. It was Von Miller. There were a bunch of guys in that draft. I think it was like 1 or 2 stud receivers in that draft as well. I think J.J. Watt was in that draft. Ryan Kerrigan was in that draft. A bunch of big-time offensive linemen were in that draft. Like, that draft was loaded in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I digress. You extracted a Super Bowl championship. He's in his 30s now, and you're not going to win anything meaningful with him on the roster. He doesn't fit in the time frame of where the Denver Broncos are heading. He's not in the same age bracket with the likes of Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler and Albert O and Noah Fant and all of the guys that they have on that team that represent the future for the Denver Broncos. He's not in that time frame. So if you're the Denver Broncos, you did the right thing, because you need to position yourself with as many assets as possible so that if you need to trade up to get the quarterback, because that guy doesn't exist on your roster right now. It's not Drew Lock. Obviously, it's not Teddy Bridgewater. That guy isn't there in Denver right now. So you need to load up on as many draft picks as possible. So if you're the Denver Broncos, you're trying to put yourself in a position so that if you need to move up to get that guy, if you peg one of these quarterbacks as the future, you can go up and get him. Cortland Sutton, these are the guys that represent the future in Denver. So it makes a ton of sense to me that a 30-something-year-old Von Miller isn't appealing to you right now. Excellent football player. One of the best in franchise history. Helped bring a Super Bowl to Denver. Nothing more to get out of Von Miller. There's nothing more for him to do there. And there's nothing that you're going to win with him still playing great football. By the time everybody's ready and by the time you find a quarterback, Von Miller either won't be in Denver anymore anyway because he'll be a free agent, or he'll be past his prime. Either way, I thought it was the right thing to do. Don't wait for a compensatory pick and let him leave for nothing. Get something for him. Maximize the value. They did that. Got no problems with that at all whatsoever. And you trade him to a team that's going to give him a chance to win. You did right by Von as well. So love the move from the aspect of the Denver Broncos. It's going to be interesting to see how it impacts the rest of the NFC landscape. It's a massive move that sends shockwaves through the rest of the league. It's a big-time move. I don't know about you. I'd love to see the Vegas odds pre-move and now post-move, but I'm telling you right now, that takes the Los Angeles Rams. If they weren't number one, and I kept saying it, I still got Tampa Bay as my number one. Well, now Tampa Bay is no longer my number one. I'm putting the Rams ahead of the Buccaneers, who they've already beaten this season, by the way. Give me the Rams now. Now, I still don't know what the hell Matthew Stafford's going to do in crunch time when shit gets real. He hasn't been in that situation yet. Matthew Stafford can wheel and deal during a regular season. We saw him do it in the Detroit Lions uniform. We haven't seen Matthew Stafford, the postseason clutch hero. Haven't seen that guy. Don't know if he even exists. One thing's for sure, they got a defense now. If healthy, they've got a defense to be reckoned with. Speaking of if healthy, a potential Super Bowl contender in the AFC just took a massive blow to their hopes of hoisting on Lombardi, and that's the Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry, King Henry, all hail King Henry, left yesterday's game briefly in the first quarter and was seen without a shoe on. And it was tweeted about. People brought it up, didn't think much of it because at the start of the second quarter, here's Derrick Henry back in the game. Shoe on. Looks no worse for the wear. Okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe, ankle didn't feel right. Something was wrong with the tape job they did, and they were retaping it. Maybe he turned his ankle a bit. They needed to retape his ankle, and he got back out there. No big deal. Come to find out, the reason he was out of the game in the first quarter yesterday against the Indianapolis Colts on the road was because he broke his foot. And, man, I tell you, man, some of these athletes. Now, I watched Charlie Morton pitch an inning, essentially, on a fractured fibula after he took a 108-mile-an-hour exit velocity pitch hit back to him off of the shin. And he then went out and got 3 outs, including a K of Jose Altuve. How in the hell do you manage to do that on a broken fibula? Don't ask me. I can't tell you. But he did. Derrick Henry finished the game on a broken foot yesterday. Don't ask me. I can't tell you how he managed to do that. But he did. And so now the question is, will the Titans get him back at some point this season? They're holding out hope that they will. The surgery that he is scheduled to have tomorrow is supposed to keep him out anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks. Titans are targeting right in the middle at 8 weeks. Well, 8 weeks from now puts you right at the back end of the season with 2 weeks to go in week number 16. 10 weeks puts you right at the postseason. Will the Titans be in the postseason is the question without their lead horse. Now we talk about replacements. And the crazy part was Derrick Henry was going to have a chance to do something that I don't know if any other back has done in NFL history. I think Terrell Davis might have done it. Back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. Don't know if Terrell Davis did it twice in a row or if he ever did it twice or if any back, for that matter, has done it twice. But he had a chance to do it twice in a row. And he was miles ahead of any other running back in the league in terms of rushing yards. He was going to win another rushing title. The question wasn't, was he going to win the rushing title? It was by how much, and would he eclipse 2,000 for a second consecutive year? Well, those hopes have been dashed. Now the only hope the Titans have is that he arrives back in time for the postseason. Speaking of the postseason, will they get there? They need a back. And what do? They call up the ageless wonder known as Adrian Peterson, who stayed ready, as always. Wise man once told me, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. Well, ain't nobody more ready than Adrian Peterson, a.k.a. All Day, a.k.a. AD, a.k.a. AP. I thought he still had something left to give. I know his financial statements say, hey, bro, you better have something left to give. Either way, I still think there's football left in Adrian Peterson, and that's the perfect opportunity for him because he wants the rock. Well, he's going to get that shit in Tennessee. That's for damn sure. We'll see what he has left and what he can provide them. It won't be Derrick Henry type production, but if they block it up the way they did for Derrick Henry, AD will get what's there. Now, he's not ripping off 74 and 88 and 92-yard runs like Derrick Henry, but if you block it for 15, he'll get you 17, maybe 30. So I'm going to be intrigued to see him with this Titans football team down the stretch. Can he pick up the slack? And he can't do it by himself. So guys like Jeremy McNichols and some of their other guys are going to have to step up big time. Darrington, Evans, they've been waiting on him. Other guys are going to have to step up. Can't just be 922-year-old Adrian Peterson. He's going to need some help. But I'm anxious to see him in this role because this is what he wanted. He wanted a team that was going to give him 20-plus carries a game. I don't know if he can handle that at his age. We'll see. But he's the equivalent of Tom Brady at the running back position. So I'm anxious to see how that looks, and we'll get our first look at it, I would assume, on Sunday Night Football when these Titans take on those Rams that we just talked about. Speaking of Sunday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings were on Sunday Night Football last night and lost a heartbreaker to the Dallas Cowboys and quarterback Cooper Rush. In that football game, they also lost a key player on their football team. One, Danielle Hunter, who missed all of last season with an injury, now is going to miss the remainder of this season with a torn pec. He's done. And really, with his injury probably comes the end of the Vikings season. I mean, that's an irreplaceable force. He was leading their team with 6 sacks at the time of the injury, and he's their best defender. You know, they got other guys that are really good, Anthony Barr and Kendricks and Harrison Smith. There are other guys on that defense that are really good. They aren't Danielle Hunter, however. So that stings. And that's probably an exclamation point on what's been an up and down rocky season for the Vikings. That's going to pretty much put them in a really tough spot because you can't produce and replicate the kind of production you get from one of the premier pass rushers in all of the National Football League. So that's a devastating blow. Speaking of devastating blows, the New Orleans Saints suffered one, and they kind of knew yesterday. Sean Payton had already alluded to the fact that he thought it was a serious, significant knee injury. His concerns were confirmed today as their starting quarterback, Jameis Winston, is going to be lost for the season with a torn ACL and damage to his MCL as well. So it was not a clean tear. Damage was done elsewhere. And so it's going to be a long road to recovery for Jameis Winston. You feel for him because he waited patiently for his turn in New Orleans, finally got the opportunity, and now had gotten all of these healthy pieces back, was slated to get Michael Thomas back any week now. And just like that, his season is done. Now the Saints find themselves in quite the quandary. Again, they'll get Taysom Hill back at some point, but hard for me to envision them winning with a combination of Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian. But that defense, as we saw yesterday, is capable of giving them a chance. But that can only take you so far. You're not beating the Rams. You're not beating the Arizona Cardinals. You're not beating the Dallas Cowboys. You're not beating the Green Bay Packers with Trevor Siemian nor Taysom Hill. Don't give a damn how good the defense is playing. So they're in quite a conundrum there, are the Saints. And it's amazing how quickly things can turn for these NFL teams. For the Titans, they were just up, euphoric, coming off of an improbable come-from-behind victory in which they were trailing 14-0 early in the first quarter. Come back, rally, tie that thing, send it to OT, ultimately win. And then you hit the low of finding out that your star running back, the catalyst for everything you do offensively, the reason that you sit at 6-2 among the best the AFC has to offer, is now lost for the season, and you've got to replace him. The Minnesota Vikings thought they were going to get over 500 when they found out Dak Prescott wasn't going to play on Sunday night and that they were getting Cooper Rush. Not only did they not get a win, not only did they get a, oh, shucks, Cooper Rush, but they also got a shock to the senses when they lose their star defensive end, Danielle Hunter. And the New Orleans Saints riding the high. You see them dancing in the locker room, as they always do after big wins. Jameis on the crutches, getting it in. Everything's all fine and dandy until you find out your quarterback's done for the season and you're going to be relying on Trevor Siemian and or Taysom Hill. Their season just took a turn for the worse. They're going to continue to scrap. They're going to continue to fight because that's what the Saints do. And Sean Payton's not going to let these guys lie down and sulk in pity. But there's only so much you can do with Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian at quarterback, as I just mentioned. So, the NFL, man, it's such a humbling sport. God damn it, it's humbling. 1 minute you're up, the next minute you're down. 1 minute you're down, and the next minute you're getting a huge win, and you're feeling like, why not us? It's a crazy, crazy sport. But, man, these last 24 hours, and again, we're not done yet because the trade deadline still has 24 hours before it meets its conclusion. We could have more. There are names here that we're still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. We've already seen trades happen. Von Miller, Joe Flacco, traded from the Eagles to the Jets. Zach Ertz, we already talked about that trade. Big trade, I believe. Really helps the Arizona Cardinals and strengthens and fortifies their offensive attack from Philadelphia to Arizona. All right. Mark Ingram was a big move, and he had a nice little part in the Saints win over the Buccaneers from Houston back to the Saints. Brandon Cooks wasn't all too happy about that trade. But then there are other guys that are sitting there that want out, and their teams say, look, we agree. We think you should get out. Go see if you can find a trade. Deshaun Jackson wants out of Los Angeles with the Rams. Melvin Ingram wants out of Pittsburgh. And the Chiefs are like, hey, we want him. And the Steelers are like, yeah, about that. We want to trade him to an NFC team. Yeah, we think you could actually use him and use him against us. So we know you're interested, but we think we're going to pass on that. Thanks, but no thanks. Andy Isabella. I talked about Zachary Ertz going to the Arizona Cardinals and all of the weapons that they have, and they can go 4 or 5 deep at receiver. Well, Andy Isabella is the forgotten man. A former second-round pick in 2019. The guy can play football, and he can flat out fly. Someone can use Andy Isabella. Somebody rescue this man. Will anybody come to his aid? We'll see. What about Evan Ingram? Former first-round pick of the New York Giants. It's pretty safe to say he's been a bust to this point. Giants aren't satisfied with what they've gotten out of him. He can't be satisfied at what he's done in this league, whether it's inconsistency with catching the football or injuries or the combination of the two. He's been a disappointment for the Giants. But maybe there's a second act waiting for Evan Ingram somewhere else where he's able to flourish, take off, and actually show the true potential that he has and have that manifest itself to actual production on the football field. Maybe he just needs a fresh start. Is someone willing to give him that fresh start? Well, we've got one more day to find that out. What about Andre Dillard, another former first-round pick in that 2019 draft? Eagles have been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for this guy to A, stay healthy, B, be productive and prove himself, and C, take over the left tackle position. He hasn't been able to do any of those things. And now the Eagles are saying, somebody come get this guy up off us, please. Again, much like Evan Ingram, maybe a change of scenery is what the doctor ordered for Andre Dillard. We'll see if someone comes and gets him. A couple of names that surfaced yesterday right before game time. Darius Slayton of the New York Giants. With all of the acquisitions via the draft and free agency, Darius Slayton kind of became a forgotten man with this Giants offense, and he's been dealing with an injury, much like he was last season. But when you've got Sterling Shepard, when you've got Kadarius Toney, when you've got John Ross, and of course their big free agent acquisition from the Detroit Lions, Kenny Golladay, when you have all of those weapons, where does Darius Slayton fit into the equation? The answer is he doesn't, which is why the Giants are looking to move him. He can help somebody. Darius Slayton isn't trash. He can play ball. He just needs the right spot to land. And if he lands softly somewhere, I'm telling you, that guy can help a football team. He is a talented guy that can absolutely run. And I think there is a home somewhere that is very inviting, waiting on a guy like Darius Slayton. Speaking of receivers, Devontae Parker is apparently on the block with the Miami Dolphins as well. So if you're looking for a big-bodied wide receiver that can go up and make plays, that has had some big-time seasons in this league, Devontae Parker may be the man for the job. If the price is right, maybe you can have yourself some Devontae Parker. So a lot of names still left to be unsettled as we near the trade deadline tomorrow. I don't think we're done. I think we see one or two more impactful trades before this trade deadline meets its conclusion. And I'm anxious to see what happens, moving forward. But man, the Von Miller trade really knocked my socks off, because I heard rumblings and grumblings and innuendos that he could be on the move. I just didn't think it would happen. I didn't know who would have the balls, the gall, the stones to go and get him. I should have known it was going to be the Rams. They are fearless when it comes to these types of moves. If you're out there, this is going to be a unique show, not like our normal Monday shows. I think I might do that tomorrow. I want to hear from you guys on all the things that have transpired. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. Okay. If you've got something to say on any of the topics we've just discussed, please use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read. We will turn this into a social media maneuver segment, which means we're going to go right into our social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder as we get to any comments that might be out there. And I know I was a little bit late on letting you guys know that I meant to do that at the top of the show, but then with the whole, getting sidetracked and blindsided by the initial happenings of the pod, I forgot to bring that up into your attention. But nonetheless, let's get to the proceedings this evening. Billy Mack, thank you for the comment, who writes, congratulations to you and your wife on the twins. Hey, I really do appreciate that, Billy Mack. We are really excited, and she's ready to drop the load. She can't wait, but she's still got another month and some change to go. Eli writes, man, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, and Jalen Ramsey on the same defense is scary. It's not just scary. It's downright dangerous. Okay. And you didn't add in the fact that they've got Leonard Floyd as well. Like, somebody's going to get one-on-one that you don't want to have one-on-one. Obviously the guy that you say, all right, Leonard beat us, but we're not going to let Von or Aaron get us. would be Leonard Floyd, but he's capable of winning a one-on-one matchup as well. So it's really scary. That defense is ferocious, and they've got other really good complementary players on that defense as well. But when you talk about star power, that's insane to have those three guys on one side of the ball. That feels like some Pro Bowl roster shit. You just don't see that in the NFL in today's day and age. If you draft these guys, you can't keep all of them, but to have them all and you acquired all of them in different ways. Well, the last two guys, Von Miller and Jalen Ramsey, both were acquired via trade, but to be able to acquire those guys, afford all of those guys and have them all under one roof, even if it'll only be for this one season, still amazing. Ridiculous. Henny Knight writes, bye week, perfect time to study college quarterbacks. I'm going to definitely start to take a look at these guys this week. It's, like you said, the perfect time to kind of immerse myself and submerge into the quarterback position in the upcoming draft. Sometimes the thing that can be a little bit tricky with doing it this early is you don't know who is going to come out and who isn't. Most of the time with the quarterbacks, you're not studying seniors. You're studying redshirt sophomores and redshirt juniors and, true juniors and guys that have eligibility left. So it'll be interesting to see of the non-seniors who's going to come out and who's going to decide to go back. Kevin the PRF says, redo. The Broncos did what I wanted to do with Kerrigan 2 years ago. Yeah, that's what we all were screaming when we heard that the Ravens and the Colts were interested in Ryan Kerrigan. But no, we were too fixated on him setting the all-time sack record, because when you're a bad team and you don't win shit, you think about the frivolous things like setting an all-time franchise sack record. That's what you start to think about. What can I market to try to put asses in seats? So that's what they did. And again, there were no asses in seats when he broke the record. It was COVID. So they should, but they didn't know COVID was going to happen. They should have traded him, though. I'm with you. That trade should have happened. It didn't. And that's why our organization is what it is, though. Anyway. Dejan Bell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Dejan writes, you should name your twins Sean and Taylor. No and no. Actually, we had a name scheme already and a theme that we were going with. So names have already been decided. But, that would be pretty cool, and it is a boy and a girl. So you could actually get away with that. Because I feel like Taylor's more of a female name than it is a boy in first name. But that's nor here nor there. Let's see. I think we got a couple more comments. Hidden Rain, Pac-Man D3 says, if the Rams stay healthy and can't win the Super Bowl, they all deserve to be fired. So much talent on that team from both sides of the ball. Imagine if Cam Akers hadn't gotten hurt too. It would have been just an abundance of riches, because we saw what he was morphing into at the end of his rookie season. You could argue that he was the best player on the field for the Rams in that loss to the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round last year, with Aaron Donald being compromised. You could argue Cam Akers was the best player on the field last year. He did everything he could to put him in a position to win that football game. He was fantastic, I think, the week prior against the Seattle Seahawks. So we saw what he was morphing into. And had he stayed healthy, that would have been amazing to watch that offense probably be even more dynamic than what it is with just, Darrell Henderson at running back with the smatter of, Sony Michel. But I don't think everyone should be fired if they don't win it all, if they stay healthy. It will be pretty disappointing. And being that you're renting Von Miller essentially, and there's no way you're going to be able to have him back after this year. I don't think there's a way you can fit him under the cap. I mean, obviously, where there's a will, there's a way. But the likelihood is that you're renting him. The Broncos took on the bulk of his salary so that they could get those draft picks so that you could make this deal work, because your cap situation wasn't ideal to fit $9.7 million under your current cap situation. It just couldn't happen. So they ate the major portion of that deal and left you with the table scraps. And so now you're in a position with all these guys to win and win now and win big. And I think if they don't win it, there will be a lot of scrutiny if they're healthy, obviously. A ton of scrutiny coming their way. But they've put this team in the best position to win and win now. Now they got to go out and execute. Chris, Michelle, or Michael, one or the other. Chris writes, what percentage do you give the Browns offloading OBJ before the deadline? I would put it at 1%. See him going anywhere. I don't see anybody taking on OBJ at this point of the season. I think that there's a realistic chance that in the offseason, you could trade him. Different set of circumstances. Everyone will know he's healthy by then, and everybody can hit the reset button and decide what they feel like is the value there. And then I think the Browns are ready to move on from him. He's been a bit of a disappointment. They haven't gotten out of him what they thought they were going to get when they traded for him. And when he's been healthy, he's actually been really productive for them. But the problem is he hasn't been healthy enough for the Browns. And I think they're starting to realize that, not that he's been a headache, but they've got a lot of young players that they like. Donovan Peoples-Jones is, he's been hurt recently, but he's emerged as a really good target for them. They've got other receivers that they like. Obviously, Juice Landry is the leader of that group. And, there's several other guys that they're in the mix. I still feel like they need to draft, another receiver, a big-time receiver, if you're going to move on from ODB. Shame on you if you step to the old dirty backup. If you're going to move on from him, you need to draft another guy. But Anthony Schwartz, they've got stuff. Rashard Higgins, they've got stuff at receiver. But I just feel like they're ready to move on from him. I just don't think they're going to be able to do it right now. But I think this offseason, it'll be really interesting to see if someone is interested in coming to get him. Excuse me. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Phillies Ace 34 writes, yo, Louie, what's good? How the mighty Washington team has fallen. How about my Eagles, even though it was Detroit? Do my Eagles scare you now? You the man. Absolutely not. They don't scare me one bit. You utterly disassembled the Detroit Lions. It was impressive, but it was the Detroit Lions. They're the only winless team in the league for a reason. They stink. And you did what you were supposed to do to them. Not taking anything away from what you guys did to them, but they're 0-8 for a reason. So not afraid of your Eagles at all. Our division stinks. You stink, the Giants stink, and we stink. So not afraid of any of you guys. The only team that strikes remote fear in anybody's heart in our division is the Cowboys. And I'm not afraid of them either. I'm not afraid of them either. I don't think we're going to beat them, but I'm not afraid of them. I don't think they're going to do to us what they did to you. Put it that way. Okay. We'll see what happens, though. I say that now, and we might get a 40 burger put on our head, but more likely than not, I think we can hold them down and make it a competitive game and not let them abuse us the way that they did you guys on a Monday night a month ago. But what you guys did to the Lions was impressive. But, try that shit on the train, okay? Let me see you do that to a competent team, But you got some winnable games, as I mentioned. I can see you winning, 3 out of your next 4. Got to take care of business, but you got some winnable games coming up. See what you do with that. Let's see where we are. Sports Talker 69 writes, the most underrated running back in the league to you. Right now, the guy that doesn't get enough love for what he provides for his team is Nick Chubb. I don't think when we start rattling off the best backs in football, his name never gets mentioned. We talk about McCaffrey, who hasn't played in like 2 years. We'll talk about Dalvin Cook, who misses 6 to 8 games every year, it feels like. And I could be exaggerating, but it feels like he misses 6 games every year. It's probably more like 4. But we'll talk about Alvin Kamara, who's really good, and he's very durable, doesn't miss a ton of time. We'll talk about Derrick Henry, and rightfully so. He's the rush king, deserves to be talked about in that light. We'll talk about all of these backs. We'll talk about Joe Mixon because he's a fantasy darling. We'll talk about all of these running backs. We never bring up Nick Chubb's name because he's not sexy. He's not catching the ball out of the backfield. He's not a fantasy darling because he's not catching the football in your PPR league. But Nick Chubb is a stud, and I think he might be the best pure running back in the league. He's got a rare combination of power, agility, and speed. So I think the most underrated back in the league right now is Nick Chubb. Let's see. All right, no more comments. So we'll go now to our final segment of the show. And that is garbage time. So, Monday Night Football. New York Football Giants at the Kansas City Chiefs. Let me say something real quick before we get to this quick little preview and prediction. Week number 8 in the 2021 NFL season will forever go down in infamy for me as the absolute worst week of picking games I've ever had in my life. Let me go through the slate. I picked Arizona on Thursday. Got that one wrong. I picked Cincinnati. Not only did I pick the Cincinnati Bengals, I picked them as my sole survivor pick of the week. That went up in flames, and so did my bid to win the survivor pool for the 9th consecutive year. I will not win the survivor pool unless the New York Giants do the impossible, the improbable, and beat the Kansas City Chiefs tonight. Then I get a second lease on life. I picked the Indianapolis Colts to protect the house against the Titans. They had every opportunity to do it, and Carson Wentz single-handedly decided that wasn't going to take place. At the Rams, that was one of my 3 wins on the day. Yes, 3 out of 15 games in this week. I've got 3 wins. That's one of them. I picked Cleveland to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, who they knocked their kicker out of the game because the Steelers thought it was a good idea to fake a field goal and throw a pass with their field goal kicker. They destroy him on the sidelines. He's out of the game, and they still win the goddamn game. The Browns are pathetic. Lost that game. I thought that the Lions could beat the Eagles. That's what I get for – I'm not picking the Lions anymore. I've already said I'm not picking the Lions anymore. Lost that game. They got destroyed. I picked the Bears. Every time I don't pick the Bears at home, they win. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do the thing that I haven't done all season, and I'm going to pick the Bears at home because usually at home they find a way to win against bad teams. They were playing the 49ers. The 49ers have looked like straight trash the last couple of weeks. And so I figured they should be able to get a win. They were up early. They didn't last long. They let Jimmy Garoppolo run all over them. I lost that game too. Carolina and Atlanta, it's family business. I try not to stick my nose in family business that doesn't pertain itself to me. So I deserve what I got here. But I just said the Falcons look like the more together team right now. They got their shit together. The Panthers are going through an identity crisis. Still no Christian McCaffrey. How are they going to score points? Doesn't matter. Falcons couldn't score any points. They end up winning that game 19-10. Godly, this was a bad week. Miami at Buffalo. That almost went awry, but the Buffalo Bills said, hey, I got you, bro. Don't worry. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's one of my 2 of my 3 wins. And New England at the Chargers, me and my dad, we sat and we mulled over this game. And we both came to the conclusion that the Patriots are on the rise. But we weren't sure if they were there yet. Chargers were coming off of a bye week. Was really interested to see how they would respond. We got what we deserved because we both thought that the Patriots could win that game. We didn't have the balls to do it. Lost that game as well. Jaguars at Seattle. I sat and I thought about this one too. Glad that I just said, you know what? Till Jacksonville proves it to me, I'm not messing with them. And I went with Seattle. Good thing that I did, or that would have been a loss. That's my third and final win of week number 8. I picked Washington. I was so sold on the fact that Washington would beat a very downtrodden Denver Broncos team that hadn't looked like themselves since week 3. Well, I was wrong. And shame on me for thinking that Washington could do anything other than look like one of the worst teams in football. Lost that game. I didn't expect Tampa Bay to go to New Orleans and lose. But then again, I knew it was family business, and I'm not shocked that the Saints won. I'm shocked that the Saints won with Trevor Siemian at quarterback after Jameis Winston left in the first quarter. That's what I'm shocked about. Not shocked that the Saints defense got all over Tom Brady. They did the same thing last year twice, not once, twice. So not surprised that they won the game, surprised that they won the game with Trevor Siemian. And needless to say, I picked Tampa Bay, lost that game too. And then I thought, man, I don't think Dak's going to play. And I didn't know if he was going to play or not. I just threw a damn dart at the board, took a shot in the dark and said, you know what? Let's see what the hell happens. So I picked the Vikings just because they were coming off of a bye week and they had won 2 in a row and they were starting to feel good and play some better football. And I said, let's see what the Vikings have. And they shouldn't have to deal with Dak Prescott. Even if Dak was playing, I was still going to pick Minnesota. So I felt even better about it. They go down, they score in the opening drive. They look impressive. I'm like, yeah. They pick off Cooper Rush. They force him to fumble, scoop that up. I'm like, yeah. And then they give up a 73-yard touchdown. And I'm like, ugh. And now it's tied at 10. And I'm like, whoa. And then they can't score any more points. And I'm like, ugh. And then the referees try to give them the game. And I'm like, ah. And then they say, nah, we good. We're going to take a field goal. I'm like, oh. And then they let the Cowboys go down the field. And I'm thinking it's 3rd down and 7. Ezekiel Elliott catches a 3-yard pass. And I'm like, yeah. And then they let him break 8 tackles. I'm like, no. And then they score a touchdown. And I'm like, boo. And then Mike Zimmer decides to call 2 timeouts in a row. And I'm like, no. What are you doing? So, of course, I take an L on that one. And now I'm left with the Chiefs hosting the Giants. So that's where we find ourselves. I've never had a more embarrassing week in my life. I'm 3-11 right now. I've never had double-digit losses in any given week before. This is insane. I don't even know who I am right now. Like, I'm going through an identity crisis. Who is this masked man? Because this is not the two-time winners and losers champ you're talking to. I don't feel like that guy right now. Not doing this type of shit. Anyway, Giants at the Chiefs is very intriguing for a number of reasons. One, that 7 seed in the NFC up for grabs. And if the Giants want to throw their name in the hat, they got a chance to do that tonight. Eagles threw their name in the hat with a win over the Lions yesterday. 49ers threw their name in the hat with the win over the Bears yesterday. And if the Giants can get to 3, which is what I wanted Washington to do, to throw their name in the hat, the Giants can get to 3 wins. They'll throw their name in the hat with Minnesota and Carolina and the Falcons and all the rest of those 3-win teams that are vying for that 7th and final wild card spot in the NFC. It's wide ass open. Just got to have 3 wins to be in that discussion right now. Well, the Giants are sitting here at 2-5, and they're not playing bad defense. That's what's giving them a chance. They're not playing bad defense. And this Chiefs offense is struggling. And if there's any team out there that I look at and say they could go to Kansas City, play marginal offensive football, but outstanding defense and give themselves a chance, It's this New York Giants football team. I watched them do it last year with Colt McCoy at quarterback when they went to Seattle and won. So I wouldn't be shocked if they did it again in this game because the Chiefs are struggling. And the Chiefs don't look like the Chiefs. They don't look like themselves right now. And I don't know where to place the blame. I know Patrick Mahomes isn't playing his best football. I don't want to hear about just Samuel Watkins not being there. That's not enough. They don't look the same. I can't put my finger on it quite yet, but they don't look like the same team. Either way, they're in quite the conundrum, are the Chiefs, because shit's getting real in the AFC. And I can tell you this, the Patriots did them a huge solid by beating the Chargers, who were leading that division. Right there, and I think the Raiders are actually leading that division. Either way, they're going to have their say in that division. They still got the Chargers once more. They got the Raiders twice, haven't played them yet. And I don't know if they played the Broncos yet either. But this is one of your last NFC East get out of jail free cards. You were struggling early in the year. You got the Eagles. You mopped them up, got the win, got back on track temporarily. You were struggling again. You got Washington. You mopped them up, got back on track temporarily. Here's another opportunity for you to get back on track against an NFC East team. This is your last opportunity. Don't blow it if you're the Chiefs, because you don't get another one. The next time you play an NFC East team, it's Dallas. That ain't a get-right game. That's a potentially get-your-ass-whooped game if you're not careful. So I look at this game tonight, and I think that the Giants are going to do what everybody else is doing against the Chiefs. And it's up to Kansas City to force them to change what they're doing, or just say, all right, we'll take what you're giving us. That's part of the problem. I can't quite put my finger on all the things that are ailing this Chiefs team this year. One of the things, though, is that everyone's just playing soft. Too deep shell. Keep everything in front of you underneath. Don't let Tyreek Hill over the top and force them to nickel and dime their way down the field. Patrick Mahomes doesn't want to do that. He don't want to take what the defense giving him. He wants chunk plays. He wants big plays. He doesn't want to check to a run because it's a light box. He wants to throw it. And teams are saying, all right, I'm just going to play you soft. Give you anything you want underneath. You got to take it. But are the Chiefs willing to be patient and take what the defense is giving them? That's when they've gotten in the most trouble this year, when they've tried to force things that weren't there. So the Giants are going to adopt this theory, especially without their star safety, Jabril Peppers, who's lost for the season. They're going to have to play it soft. They're going to have to play it safe and keep everything in front of them. And the Giants do a tremendous job of this because they don't have a pass rush. So the Giants do an incredible job of keeping everything in front of them for the most part. They don't give up a ton of big plays. They're a bend but don't break defense. And they don't break very often. It's one thing about the Giants. You say what you want about their offense, and it's hit or miss on a weekly basis. You don't know what the hell offense is going to show up for the Giants. But generally speaking, their defense usually comes to the party. They get there early, they stay late, and they give their team a chance. If that happens tonight, I could see the Giants stealing this game from the Chiefs. Problem is, I don't see the Giants scoring enough points. Now, this Chiefs defense isn't any good. I don't know if they'll have Chris Jones back in the saddle tonight or not. That'd be a great help, because if they can get him back, I think he can win against the interior of that offensive line and really make Daniel Jones's life miserable. But if they don't have him back and they're not able to generate any pressure and he gets comfortable back there, I could see Daniel Jones picking that secondary and defense apart and really giving them a chance, like he did last year against Tampa Bay on a Monday night, losing because of what people termed a bad no call. Remember, they threw the flag on the 2-point conversion, then picked it up and said no foul on the play, which there was. I was glad they picked it up. We needed them to pick it up, because if that game went to overtime, I think they would have beat the Bucs. They had all the momentum in that game. So I could see them doing something like they did on Monday night last year against the Bucs. This time they're not at home. They're on the road, but Kansas City hasn't been Arrowhead this year. Arrowhead hasn't been Arrowhead. Teams are going in there like it's nothing and taking the Chiefs' lunch money from them. Going in their house, in front of their moms, And mom said, I just gave him that $2. He's like, yeah, now it's my $2, mom. Sorry, not sorry. Give me your lunch money, chump. People going into Arrowhead like it's nothing, smacking those boys around. I don't think the Giants are about that life. And they're still Saquon Barkley-less, which really kills them in this situation. But I think they're going to hang in there. I don't think this is an ass whooping. I just don't think they have enough offensive firepower, even though the Chiefs defensively aren't great. Just don't think they have enough offensive firepower. They struggle to score, man. It is brutal watching this Giants offense sometimes. I think the Chiefs allow this to be a close game up until, just like against the Eagles, it was a nip and tuck game. And then they pulled away late, similar to the Washington game. I think they're going to do exactly what they did to the last two NFC East opponents. Have it be a close ball game and then pull away late. So I think the Chiefs are going to, be in there. They're going to struggle in the first half, moving the football with any efficiency. The Giants are going to hang tough. You look up, it's 13-10 at halftime. Giants are ahead or the Chiefs are just ahead, at the break. And then they're going to hang in. And then you look up with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and then the Chiefs get on their horse. And next thing you know, it's 27-13. And they've run away from the Giants and head. And that's what I think the final score is going to be, 27-13. It's not, it won't be what the final score says it is. It won't be like they beat Washington 31-13. If you watch that game, it was 13-10 late stages of the third quarter. It was 17-13 with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And then the game just got away from Washington. And it was like 29-23 against the Eagles with like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then the game got away from the Eagles. I think that's what kind of game it's going to be. This is going to be 17-13 with 12 minutes in the fourth quarter, and then they're going to pull away. We'll see. I got the Chiefs tonight. Don't listen to me. I just went 3-11. Okay, don't listen to me. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about this week. Okay, just as a disclaimer, don't listen to me. I'm clueless right now. I don't know anything more than the next man. So, I wouldn't even listen to me. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. I think I got one more super chat. And then we will get out of here for the day. And I do have a super chat. And it is from the Phillies Ace. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Phillies Ace writes, first of all, double up. Thank you for doubling up. The Phillies Ace, greatly appreciate you. Who writes, even though Washington is 2-6 with the back end of the season is all division games, what chance do you see Dallas falling and which team can sneak up? Dallas ain't fall. I mean, the only way Dallas falls flat on their face is if Dak Prescott is done for the season, like with no chance of return. I don't see that happening. You saw they took a cautious approach. Had that been a play in game or a winner takes all or a playoff game, he'd have played last night. He could have played. They're being extra precautious because they know that he's the ticket. Without him, they don't have a chance. And if this division were a lot tighter, they probably play him last night. But because they had a 3-game cushion going into the game, Eagles win, so it cut it to 2. They say, we're good. Even if we lose, we still got a 2-game cushion on the rest of the division, and they all stink. We're good, regardless of what happens. But, now that they got the win, and they're 2.5 up, I don't see anybody catching them, honestly. I don't see anybody getting hot enough. The only team that I can see catching them would be the Eagles because their schedule is soft enough for that to take place. I talked about you having a chance to win 3 out of your next 4. Let's take a look at your schedule real quick. But I remember this from one of these primetime games earlier in the season where we looked at the Eagles schedule. It was either a primetime game or, it was after week 1 when Eagles fans were going apeshit after beating the Atlanta Falcons. And I was like, hey, try that shit against the 49ers. Try that shit on the train. And obviously, we saw what happened that week and the week after and the week after that, so forth and so forth. But you got the Chargers at home. That's a winnable game. You got at the Broncos. You're going to beat them. They stink. Home for the Saints. That's going to be interesting. That's a winnable game, especially with the quarterback situation being what it is. Then it's the Giants. Then it's the Jets. Then it's Washington. Shit, you can win 6 in a row. You're not going to because your quarterback stinks. But you could win 6 in a row. Really. Seriously. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can win 8 in a row. You got Washington twice, and you got the Giants twice, and the Jets sandwiched in between the Giants and Washington twice. Shit, you could win. You're probably not going to beat the Chargers. You're probably not going to beat the Saints, but those are winnable games. If anybody could sneak up on them, it'd be you. Be the Eagles. Your schedule is soft enough to do it. You just got to take advantage of opportunities. So, and I can honestly say that for the most part, you've done that this year. When you've had an inferior team put in front of you, you've destroyed them. So I wouldn't be shocked if you beat the brakes off the Jets, you sneak up on the Chargers, who are struggling right now, and the Broncos are there for the take. I think you're going to smack those boys around. They stink. I just saw them up close and personal. They're garbage. So I really think that you got a chance, but we'll see what you do with it. We'll see what you do with it. I don't think you're catching Dallas, but you'll have a chance at that wild card. But you got to get on your horse. John Cedillo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy John writes, hey, Lou. What's up, John? He says, in your opinion, what could Dallas possibly add to the team before the trade deadline? Additional pass rush could help, but couldn't Isabella be a great add-on? I don't think you need any more wide receivers right now, and you still don't have what I thought was your second best receiver. He's probably more like your third, might even be your fourth best with the way that your man is playing from Boise State, the one that had the touchdown last night. I don't know why I can't think of his name, Cedric Wilson. But obviously you still got the receiver that went out in week 1 against the Buccaneers. He's got to be coming back here shortly. I thought it was like a 4-week injury. It's been like, 6 or 7 weeks. So at some point, he'll be back. You got plenty of speed between Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, who's not a blazer by any stretch of the imagination. You don't have a guy on your team. Cooper is the closest you have in terms of speed to Andy Isabella, but none of them are quite Andy Isabella. But then again, there aren't many guys in the league that are Andy Isabella speed. Okay. That said, you don't need any more help at receiver. Like you said, it'd be a great add-on, but you don't need that. You got plenty of weapons at receiver. If I were Dallas, again, what's done is done. I think your biggest position of need potentially could be your offensive line. Like, we saw Tyron Smith get injured last night. Don't think it's a serious injury. Obviously, we saw the offensive line last year and what it looked like with all the injuries. You're one La'el Collins slip up away from him being suspended indefinitely, and you're one Tyron Smith injury away from having Ty and Secchi and Steele out at your tackle positions, and it could get ugly quickly. Now, who's available for you at this moment? Not much. No one's trading away tackles at the trade deadline for the most part. So that would be a position that I would look at if I were Dallas. Just looking at the guys that are available right now, I don't really see anybody. Andre Dillard, I mentioned him. I mean, but you're literally, first of all, I don't know if the Eagles are willing to trade with you. Maybe they would be, draft pick's a draft pick, but I don't know if they want to see this kid 2 times a year for the next however many years. You know what I mean? But he'd be interesting, but you don't know if he's a solution or not. You could trade for him and you could find out what the Eagles already think, which is he stinks. So you want more of a known commodity. When you trade at the trade deadline, you want a known commodity. every now and again, I'll swap my stinky stuff for yours. I remember once upon a time, that's what the Colts and the Bills did. The Colts had drafted Jerry Hughes. I can't remember if it was the first or second round. I think he was a failed, really want to say first round pick. And the Bills had one too that they weren't happy with. And the team swapped, like, okay, here's my refurbished first rounder. Here's yours. And let me get yours and we'll see what we can do. And Jerry Hughes turned out to be a stud for the Buffalo Bills. Probably one of the best trades they've made in the last decade. They're probably saying, I don't know about that. Stephon Diggs, pretty goddamn good so far. But Jerry Hughes has been outstanding for them for, the better part of a, decade almost. So, or at least it feels like it's probably hasn't been that long. Probably been like 7-8 years maybe. But I don't know if you're going to see Andre Dillard go or not. But if I were Dallas, that'd be the only thing I really would be worried and concerned about is my offensive line depth. But we'll see. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T, here on the 218th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. If you haven't already done so, please do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit the like button, as it doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps this channel grow immensely. Over 145 of you out there, only 66 likes. So if you would please hit the like button, I greatly appreciate you. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, I think I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. Plan for that to happen. I'm not guaranteeing it, but plan for that to happen. We'll do slate skating and all of the good things that we generally do on a Monday. This was a unique Monday because of all of the news. Wanted to open the floor to you guys and see what you had to say about Von Miller being traded to the Rams, about the injury situation for multiple teams, the Saints losing Jameis Winston for the season, the Vikings losing Danielle Hunter for the season, and of course, the biggest injury news of the day, the Tennessee Titans losing Derrick Henry for what feels like the remainder of the regular season. We'll see if he's able to get back towards the end of the regular season, and what shape will the Titans be in if and when he comes back. And can Adrian Peterson at 87 years old come in and hold the Tennessee Titans down? We'll see. Anyway, you guys get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. A lot of nonsense going on. I'll say it once more. What the hell is going on out here?